Well, good afternoon, my friends. Actually, it's evening now, isn't it? This is Nick Manson recording from the Hayden Library. This is the first time that we're trying out a new piece of technology. In the past, we've been using Google Hangouts on air to be doing these live streams, and that is a service that's going to be discontinued by Google as a whole, and they're transitioning to using YouTube live stream. And so this is the first time that we're using YouTube live stream, seeing if it's something that works for us. If you are watching right now, you can jump over to Edmodo and let us know what your favorite Newfangled title has been so far. My friends, we're going to be talking a little bit about what is going to be coming up for Newfangled. But before we do that, I figured that we would show you the screen. These are the 12 books that we have had the pleasure of reading here at Newfangled. We actually started Newfangled back in the summer of 2015. We started off with those 3 books that we started with. Those 3 books that you see at the beginning, the top of your screen there. The first one being Cinder. We have Chomp, Drama. We moved on to several other books we've been enjoying. We've actually had the pleasure of reading books all the way through until this summer as well, which is awesome. And my friends, what we had the chance of doing this month is we had a chance for everyone to come into the library, grab a book that they didn't have a chance to read of those 12 books that Newfangled has read as a whole. And the question becomes, what is the favorite book that you've read so far with Newfangled? If you have the chance right now, you can jump over to Edmodo. That is the program, the system that we use, the piece of technology that we use to chat while we have the live stream going on. It looks like Brooke is online with us right now, and Brooke is saying that her favorite is probably Grave Mercy, or The Book Thief, or The Last Free Cat, or Should I Choose to Die Again? And Brooke, I couldn't agree more. Actually, of these 12 books that we have had the chance to read, I have loved each of them for very different reasons. For instance, The Maze Runner was a book that I have read many times before, but we had the chance to read The Maze Runner and then watch the movie over at Hayden Discount Cinema. And that was something that was a lot of fun to do last January, but rereading the book, I noticed some things that I didn't notice the first time that I read it, and it was just a really engaging story, something that was an interesting take on what would these young boys do in this situation. What would you do if your entire world was thrown upside down, what you've gotten used to, that routine? What would you do if you didn't have your memories? Another one that you mentioned, Brooke, was The Book Thief. And that is a book that I had the pleasure of reading with Newfangled, and it blew me away. The way that the author had events and had death and had words be objects. The way that when the author was describing how words came out of their mouths, he sometimes described them as feathers, that it was very light to hear those things. It was enjoyable to hear those things. Other times he referenced the words as being heavy. There was almost like bricks that fell to the floor. And having it be that those words were objectified made the book really enjoyable to read. You had so many interesting characters, so many different ways that the author described how the characters looked and how the characters felt. And you also had it be that words were so important to the characters themselves. It actually got those characters through many hard times, that they had literature, that they were able to share those stories with each other. And then another cool thing that we were able to do with Newfangled was 2 months ago we were able to read Should I Choose to Die Again, which was a novel from a local author, which was fantastic because we were able to have that local author come into the Hayden Library and actually share what their book meant to them and some things that they're going to have coming up in the near future here and the way that they're writing. And so just having a chance to read those 12 books and have them be so very different. Some of them were more realistic fiction. Some of them were historical fiction. Some of them leaned more fantasy. Some of them leaned more sci-fi. And each one of them was enjoyable to read for different reasons. So on Edmodo, if you watch this recording later, you can jump onto Edmodo and answer that question. Which one was your favorite novel that we've read so far for Newfangled? Now that we've talked a little bit about the books that we have read, and please do go on to Edmodo and let us know what was your favorite. As far as my favorite book goes, I really can't put my finger on just one title that I absolutely adored, because all of them I absolutely adored and I loved to read each of them. If you really had to nail me down for one book out of that bunch, I would probably say The Book Thief is my favorite. But I'm looking right now at Codename Verity saying that I love that book and I love the way that that book was written. Having it be that your narrator starts off the story with, "I'm a coward." Where do you go from there? And having it be that your narrator is someone that is imprisoned. Your narrator is someone that is a prisoner of war and trying to survive as long as they can, and then switching between multiple perspectives made that book really, really interesting to read. It's heart-wrenching, it's terrible, but it was just so powerful, so well written. I had a really hard time not continuing to read that book once I got going. And then you had a book like The Princess Bride. The Princess Bride was very tongue-in-cheek. When I first selected that book, I actually believed that William Goldman had read a story by S. Morgenstern when he was young, that his grandpa had read him a story and taken out all of the non-interesting pieces. It turns out that William Goldman framed his story of The Princess Bride with all those asides as if he was writing from another perspective and writing and taking things out from a previous book. It turns out that William Goldman came up with all of that. It is entirely his own work. S. Morgenstern does not exist. It's someone that William Goldman made up to make his story more interesting. And I'm like, wow. It was just such a fascinating story to read as well. So once again, probably going to side with The Book Thief as my favorite, but every single one of the stories that we read, enjoyed those so very much. If you've been enjoying those books, let us know over there on Edmodo. And Brooke has been responding a little bit. Looks like Brooke is someone that is online right now. Brooke, thank you once again for joining us. Brooke says that she just finished drama and she's currently reading Ungifted. And all of those books were fantastic. Ungifted was a lot of fun because it was a little bit of a younger level of reading than some of the other books that we've enjoyed with Newfangled. And that made it really just enjoyable to read. The drama of that story was the fact of whether or not they're going to win that robotics challenge, whether or not they're going to be able to incorporate this normal person into this gifted program, and how he brings things to the table even though he's not great at math and not terrible, and he's fantastic at just interacting with people, not so much the technical side of how do these robots work. And so that was something that was really interesting. Drama was a pleasure to read, as it was actually a story that was told in a graphic novel form. All the rest of the books that we've read have just been prose, and that was a book that was written in that visual style, which was also really interesting. Once again, focusing on just the interplay between characters instead of these life and death situations or these alternate realities, these alternate worlds. And so just having such a variety of books that we've had the chance to read has been fantastic. My friends, we've been talking a little bit about the books that we've been reading. And now I'm going to give you guys a kind of a preview of the book that we're going to be reading in October. So if you are reading a book currently, continue reading that book. If there is a book that you weren't quite able to finish, finish that book and join us for our face-to-face meeting that we're going to have on the 4th Tuesday of the month, which is going to be 2 weeks from today on September 27th. The meeting is going to be from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. So please do join us for that meeting, that face-to-face meeting. We'll have some snacks. We'll be able to talk about the book that you're currently reading. If there is a book that you just finished reading and there is another one that you haven't read, let's say that it's Ungifted, let's say it's The Maze Runner, let's say it's The Book Thief, make sure that you come into the Hayden Library to get your copy of that book, and then you can be reading that for the next 2 weeks, and we can talk about that at our face-to-face meeting. My friends, we're a quick preview of the book that we're going to be reading for October. It is called Beyond the Laughing Sky. It is by Michelle Cuevas. I'm very sorry, Michelle Cuevas, if I butchered your last name. I do apologize about that. I'm just going to read the inside cover to give you a little bit of a piece of what we're going to be doing. And this is the book that we're going to start reading in October and read all the way through October. So we'll have a digital chat about it on the 2nd Tuesday of October and a face-to-face chat about it on that 4th Tuesday of October. So I'm just going to read you the opening of this book here. Going to read you the inside cover and then read maybe the first couple of paragraphs there. So, the magical and moving story of a bird-like boy who longs to fly. 10-year-old Nashville doesn't feel like he belongs with his family, in his town, or even in this world. He was hatched from an egg his father found on the sidewalk and has grown into something not quite boy and not quite bird. Despite the support of his loving family, Nashville wishes more than anything that he could join his fellow birds up in the sky. The trouble is, he hasn't grown wings, which must surely make his dream impossible. And yet, in this lyrical novel with the feel of a timeless fable, Michelle Cuevas manages to convince us that actually anything is possible. So I'm going to read just the beginning of the book right here, and just read the first couple of paragraphs. The first 2 paragraphs, actually. Number 1, in a pecan tree. Nashville and his family lived in a house perched in the branches of the largest pecan tree in the village of Goosepimple. The tree grew on the top of a high hill, and the hill overlooked a small, perfect village where the sun always shined, the grass was always mowed, and the men strutted like doves in their gray suits. The house in the pecan tree, however, was often shrouded in fog, like the purple-gray gloom of an aged bruise, causing the old men in town to sit on their porches, drink sweet tea, and gossip. That tree on the hill looks like the last feather to be plucked from the pimpled skin of a goose. Nah, it looks like the last swig of hair on an ancient bald head. Nah, it looks like the last white ghost seed waiting to fly away from a dandelion. Tourists often waited to drive up the one creeping road that led to the top and visit the house, but once they got close, realized they had somewhere else to be or something else to do. When they stopped by the town visitor center, they would say, "That house in the tree is not like the rest. Was it built there? Was it built like a nest?" "Oh no, sugar," the old widow working at the visitor center would say. "That house sat on a small street in town for nearly a century. Then, 10 years ago, there was a flood the likes of which the area has never seen. It started raining as hard as it could in March, and it didn't stop until June. Can you imagine that?" The widow paused, allowing the visitors to imagine that amount of precipitation. "Needless to say," she continued, "the rivers and swamps and the bayou overflowed. The fountain of the building came loose, and the whole place just floated away, bobbing on the water like a toy in the tub. The water rose all the way over that hill, and when the rain stopped, the house was stuck in that pecan tree like a moose in a hawk's claw." "Who lives there now?" asked the tourist. "A sweet young couple and their little girl," replied the widow. "How precious." And also the widow paused. "And well, that boy." "What boy?" "What boy indeed," replied the widow. "What boy hatches from an egg?" "Oh, fiddlesticks," a southern gentleman said to the widow. "A boy can't hatch from an egg. That's impossible." "What an absurd little word," the widow replied. "Pardon?" "You said impossible," the widow pointed out. "There's no such thing. There's things you've seen and things you may not have, but there ain't nothing that's impossible, sugar." And that is the end of the first chapter of Beyond the Laughing Sky. That is the book that we're going to be reading in October. So be looking forward to that. Right now, we also have something else that we need to do. My friends, we are going to choose the books that we're going to read for November, December, and January. Now, what that's going to be is there's going to be a chance to go online, do a Survey Monkey, where you can choose which book you would like to read. So what I have is 7 books right here beside me, and those 7 books are the choices, the choices that we can read for November, December, and January. So I'm just going to start at the top of the pile, work my way down. I'm once again going to read that Dusk Jacket to you, that inside cover, and see which one of those books you might want to read. I don't quite have the Survey Monkey up yet. It will be available on Edmodo. It'll also be available through, I'll send a link out through our email list. That way everyone can get it, and you can choose which book you want to read. And then, once we have our books chosen, you'll be able to vote, and we'll be able to purchase those books for us to read. And it looks like Brooke is saying that she just has to read Codename Verity and Chomp, which are titles that she was able to pick up the last time she was here, which is awesome. Brooke asked, is it possible to read manga? And it definitely is. In our pile of books right here, we don't have manga as one of the options. But if some of these books are something that's not interesting, these are just some that I grabbed from a selection of books that we've been able to get as free giveaway books over the summer. And if some of these books don't catch your eye, we might have a couple other ones once we get that survey finished. If you guys could let me know which one of these 7 sound interesting to you, and we'll probably add a couple other choices when we do that Survey Monkey as well. So I'm just going to go through some of the books that we have right here, kind of reading those inside jackets, and you can see which one might sound interesting. The first one is called The Knife of Never Letting Go. It's by Patrick Ness, and this is the summary of that book. Prentice Town isn't like other towns. Everyone can hear everyone else's thoughts in an overwhelming, never-ending stream of noise. Just a month away from the birthday that will make him a man, Todd and his dog Manchi, whose thoughts Todd can hear too, whether he wants to or not, stumble upon an area of complete silence. They find that in a town where privacy is impossible, something terrible has been hidden. A secret so awful that Todd and Manchi must run for their lives. But how do you escape when your pursuers can hear your every thought? So that's The Knife of Never Letting Go, an option of a book that we might be able to read in November, December, or January. The book we're going to read in October is obviously Beyond the Laughing Sky. This is another option of a book that we could read in November, December, or January there. It's called Somebody, Please Tell Me Who I Am. Everything has always come easily to Ben Bright. He's a solid student, landed the lead in his high school play, and has been with Ariella, his amazing girlfriend, for as long as either of them can remember. Everyone expects great things from Ben. So when Ben enlists in the army right out of high school, they are devastated. His parents don't understand. Ariella feels abandoned. But when he explains that he feels a deep need to give back, to protect his country, his friends and family reluctantly rally around him and support him. No one expects the phone call about Ben being in an attack. He has suffered a brain injury, and the doctors don't know how extensive the damage is. When Ben comes home, he can barely speak or write or walk, or remember anything about his identity, his family, or his friends. Harry Mazer and Peter Largres write a timely novel about a boy who could be anyone's friend, brother, or cousin, and give readers a breathtaking glimpse into the aftermath of war. Another book that we might be able to read is Popular by Maya van Wagenen. I'm butchering these last names, by the way. I do apologize for those that actually know how to say these names. Can curlers, girdles, Vaseline, and a strand of pearls help a shy girl become popular? Maya van Wegenen is about to find out. Stuck near the bottom of the social ladder at pretty much the lowest level of people at school who aren't paid to be here, Maya has never been popular. But before starting 8th grade, she decides to begin a unique social experiment. Spend the school year following a 1950s popularity guide written by former teen model Betty Cornell. The real-life results are hilarious, painful, and filled with unexpected surprises. Told with humor and grace, Maya's journey offers readers of all ages a thoroughly contemporary example of kindness and self-confidence, along with a better understanding of what it means to be popular. So, my friends, it looks like we don't have too much chatter over on Edmodo right now, which is totally fine. We're going to continue on. We have 4 more books that I want to... Yes, indeed, 4 more books, if I could count this afternoon, this evening, something like that. Apparently, I don't know what time it is. I don't know what day it is. I know that I'm doing a webcam with you guys right now. We have 4 more books that we're going to take a look at, and you can let me know which one of those books looks interesting, and then we'll choose some of these books and some of maybe a couple other titles that you can choose from to read nearby. This book is called Girl Defective. It is a book by Simone Howell. Howell? Yes, Simone Howell. And this is the inside jacket of it. This is the story of a wild girl and a ghost girl. Of a boy who knew nothing and a boy who thought he knew everything. It's a story about Skylark Martin, who lives with her father and brother in a vintage vinyl shop and is trying to find her place in the world. It's about 10-year-old Super Agent Gully and his case of a lifetime. It's about beautiful, reckless, sharp as knives Nancy. And it's about tragic-hot Luke and just plain tragic Mia Casey. It's about the dark underbelly of a curious neighborhood. It's about summer and weirdness and mystery and music. And it's about life and death and grief and romance. All the good stuff. My friends, this is the title that you're probably familiar with. This is one of the more recent books by Rick Riordan, Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard. Then this is number 1, The Sword of Summer. It was a book that I thought might be kind of fun to read. I know a lot of you guys have read Percy Jackson and the Heroes of Olympus, but I wasn't sure if you'd had a chance to read Magnus Chase yet. So I thought it might be a fun one for us to read, and you can vote for this one for us to read in December, November, or January. So I'm going to read the inside cover for you, just for those that aren't familiar with it. Magnus Chase has seen his share of trouble. Ever since that terrible night 2 years ago when his mother told him to run, he has lived alone on the streets of Boston, surviving by his wits, staying one step ahead of the police and truant agents. One day, Magnus learns that someone else is trying to track him down, his uncle Randolph, a man his mother has always warned him about. When Magnus tries to outmaneuver his uncle, he falls right into his clutches. Randolph starts rambling about Norse history and Magnus's birthright, a weapon that has been lost for thousands of years. The more Randolph talks, the more puzzle pieces fall into place. Stories about the gods of Asgard, wolves, and doomsday bubble up from Magnus's memory. But he doesn't have time to consider it all before a fire giant attacks the city, forcing him to choose between his own safety and the lives of hundreds of innocents. Sometimes, the only way to start a new life is to die. Another one I want to draw your attention to is Darkstar. Audrey Whitcomb has nothing to fear. When your mother is the most powerful superhero in the Twin Cities, it's hard not to feel safe. But when Audrey is lured into the night air by something definitely not human, the time for feeling safe is over. Now Audrey knows the truth. Her mom doesn't just stop criminals. She fights harrowers, merciless beings who were trapped beneath eons ago. Some have managed to claw their way into our world, and they want Audrey dead because of who she is, one of the kin. There is some good news, though. Audrey has powers of her own. Being able to read someone else's mind and glimpse the future can be very useful. If she's able to get close enough to Patrick Teague, a powerful harrower masquerading as human, she could use her knowing to figure out his next move. But it won't be easy. Not if Leon, her mother's bossy, infuriatingly attractive sidekick, has anything to do with it. Lately, he hasn't let Audrey out of his sight. When an unthinkable betrayal puts Minneapolis in terrible danger, Audrey discovers a wild, untamed power within herself. It may be the key to saving herself, her family, and her city. Or it may be the force that destroys everything and everyone she loves. And finally, a book that we are considering for you guys to consider is called Fairest of All. And it's actually a tale of the Wicked Queen. Now, you might recognize this artwork. This is the Wicked Queen from Snow White. And it is based on the Disney characters, actually. But I thought it was interesting because it's a different take on that same story. The tale of the young Princess Snow White and her evil stepmother, the Wicked Queen, is widely known. Despite a few variations from telling to telling, the story remains the same. The Queen was jealous of the girl's beauty, and this jealousy culminated in the Queen's attempt on the sweet, naive young girl's life. Another tale far less often spoken of is the one that explains what caused the Queen to become so contemptuously vile. Still, some have attempted to guess at the reason. Perhaps the Queen's true nature was that of a wicked hag, and her beautiful regal appearance a disguise used to fool the king. Others claim that the Queen might have hated the girl for her resemblance to the king's first wife. Most of the king is painted as a morally abhorrent woman who let me restart that sentence. Most of the Queen is painted as a morally abhorrent woman who never loved another being during the course of her miserable life. In fact, the theories about exactly what caused the Queen's obsessive vanity and jealous rage are too numerous to catalog. This book recounts a version of the story that has remained unknown until now. It is a tragic tale of love and loss, and it contains a bit of magic. It is a tale of the Wicked Queen. My friends, those are just a couple of the books that we're considering for you guys to consider. We're going to have a Survey Monkey. You'll be able to vote on which one of those books and maybe a couple other ones you would like to read for November, December, and January, as we're going to be continuing the Newfangled Book Club all the way through those months. So for this month, September, go ahead and keep reading those books that you haven't had a chance to read from the 12 books that we have already read for Newfangled. And then we're going to have our face-to-face meeting on September 27th from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. Bring the book that you read this month, and we'll be able to chat about what has been your favorite and what did you like about the books that you read this month. For next month, for October, we're going to be reading Beyond the Laughing Sky. And that was that story about a boy who is partially boy, but also partially bird. And then as we continue on, you guys will have chosen those books by then, and we'll be able to read more in November, December, and January, and continuing all the way through the school year. So for right now, you guys get back to reading, get back to some homework, get back to enjoying your evening, and we will catch you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. We'll check over there. And it looks like Brooke was able to let us know what books she liked from that list. She says she likes Darkstar, The Knife of Never Letting Go, and the one about the Evil Queen. Brooke, thank you so much for those votes. We'll be able to have you look at those votes and do them officially on that Survey Monkey that will be coming out soon. And we will catch you guys on the 4th Tuesday of this month, September 27th, from 4:30 to 5:30 here at the library. If you're watching this recorded a little bit later, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys soon. Later.